Good evening. Thank you for joining us for Mayor Gray's virtual open house. My name is Melissa Holting. I'm the Community Relations Manager for the Town of Castle Rock, and I'll be your moderator tonight. This open house will be recorded and posted on the town website and shared with residents on Nextdoor. We ask all guests and attendees to please keep your microphone muted unless it's your turn to speak. Before we begin, I'd like to share some information about your mayor. Jason Gray was elected mayor of Castle Rock in 2018. Mayor Gray grew up in the state of Washington, but has called Castle Rock home for more than 20 years. He owns Crowfoot Valley Coffee and Crow Bar downtown, and he recently opened a second location in the new Arapahoe Community College STEM Collaboration Campus. Mayor Gray actively contributes to the vibrancy and the strategic planning for Castle Rock. In addition to being the mayor of this great town, his service includes 5 years on the Castle Rock Chamber of Commerce Board, 7 years on the Downtown Alliance Board, 5 years as president of the Downtown Merchants Association, and 5 years on the Castle Rock Economic Partnership Board. Mayor Gray enjoys writing as half of the duo Harris Gray with multiple published works. He also enjoys fishing, kayaking, and finishing behind his wife Catherine in 5 and 10K races. His passions include spending time with family and organizing fundraising to support research into multiple sclerosis, ALS, Parkinson's, and dementia. Thank you, Mayor Gray, for hosting this virtual open house, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Melissa. That was very, very nice. Made me sound pretty decent. Well, good evening, Castle Rock residents. It's such a privilege to be here tonight with you, everyone, on a virtual, my first virtual town hall for the town of Castle Rock. James Townsend had a great one last week, and I'll see if I can match him. There's been a lot of changes recently due to COVID, and the town is working really hard to make things easier on you. We're during present circumstances, town council, the staff, and everybody who works for Castle Rock, just wants to make things a little smoother. And sometimes it doesn't get as smooth as you'd like, but we are really trying, and everyone's working really hard. In April, town council approved over $1.3 million in grants and loans to support Castle Rock's business. Also, town council and I have been advocating for a responsible and expeditious reopening of local businesses and town amenities like playgrounds and recreation facilities. Yesterday, I sent a letter with the complete support of town council to Governor Polis, requesting the town's businesses be allowed to reopen as soon as possible while self-managing and the safety protocols that is deemed best for their employees, customers, and input from the state health department. Also, with full support of council, I've been working with Douglas County commissioners and mayors in Douglas County to draft suggestions and plans for reopening Douglas County, including Castle Rock. Information was shared to Tri-County Health and the State Department as a part of our request to reopen Castle Rock and Douglas County last week. Tri-County approved the request and is now in the State Department. Is actually the state's Department of Health, hopefully awaiting approval. Regardless of whether we open the state's state response, regardless of if the state responds to our town letter or approves the county variance requests, we can expect restrictions to ease soon, with the expiration date health orders anticipated early next week. I appreciate the community's frustrations and have frustrations of myself as well as a local business owner. Along with the rest of the council, I will continue to advocate for a safe reopening into our community and quickly. Throughout the pandemic, the town continues to deliver high levels of service you come to know. You can see your tax dollars at work outside your window as road maintenance projects move forward. Development reviews and building inspections continue to take place. We continue to provide great quality water, parks, and recreation to continue to maintain our parks and trails and facilities. Both police and fire continue to provide uninterrupted public service and emergency response service. I appreciate all the residents and businesses who have supported our police and fire with a donation of face coverings, food, disinfectants, so much more. It's so great to live in a community that wants to reach out and really help each other. I know that there's a lot of people who are donating food to the churches, the hospitals, Health and Hope, and Catholic charities in town, and I want you guys to keep it up. If you guys need something, please reach out. If you can give something, please reach out. Now I'd like to turn over town staff for updates from Parks and Recreation, public services, police and fire, followed by followed by if we had time for questions. First up is Town Manager Dave Corliss to share more about the COVID-19. David?
Good evening, Cathrock. Thanks. Just want to spend just a few minutes talking about the town's finances and how the town organization itself is impacted by the pandemic and the response to the pandemic. And when we start that discussion, we always want to recognize that we're not alone in this, as the mayor just talked about. The response to the pandemic, the hard stop to the economy, has really hurt and impacted almost every business in the community. So many of us as employees and patrons know that impact. So we want to be cognizant of that. So to some extent, the town's finances is a story of good news and also a little bit of challenging news. The good news is that because the town council has set very strong and strict fiscal policies on how we manage the public's resources, we're going into a likely economic downturn in relatively good fiscal health. The town has reserves. To some extent, we really don't, we focus on core town services. We don't have a lot of thrills and frills in the budget. It's really just focused on the key essential services for the community. And that's very valuable as you have to go into any type of slowdown in revenue. That said, Castle Rock will face, along with almost every other community in the country, and definitely Colorado municipalities that are very dependent upon sales tax, we're going to face some very significant challenges. And I know that in our PowerPoint, we've got additional information about the town's finances. And if we're going to bring that up, I think this is probably the time to do it. One of the observations is that we greatly rely on sales tax in Castle Rock. Almost 2/3 of our general fund budget is dependent upon sales tax. So when we see stores in Castle Rock closed, when the outlet center is closed, we know that we're not getting that revenue and we have to respond accordingly. We're anticipating probably a 10 to 20% loss in sales tax. And when you need over $50 million in sales tax to accomplish all of the things that are set out in your budget, you know you're going to have to adjust your budget. So that's what we have been doing. Very proud of the work of our department head, particularly led by our finance department, to make adjustments to the 2020 budget. And that has meant that we're going to, as the slide points out, a 20% loss of sales tax. So we're looking at how to make appropriate adjustments. The next slide points out that not all of the town's resources are the same. There on the right side, we talk about sales tax. Sales tax is what funds our police department, our fire department, our street maintenance, snow removal. If you look in the center, we have a number of town functions that are operated on an enterprise fund basis. We try and run the entire town organization like a business with business principles, including the roughly $250 million annual budget. But these are very much like businesses where Castle Rock Water doesn't receive any tax dollars, the golf course doesn't, neither does the Development Services Department that regulates land building within the community. Those are all based upon charges for services. To some extent, they're going to be impacted by the recession. Obviously, the golf course was closed for a while. The water department may have delinquent accounts. Obviously, the Development Services Department may need to look at reductions in their services as they receive less building permits, if that's what happens in the economy. To date, we really haven't seen that here through the middle part of May. And then there on the left side of the slide, it shows impact fees. The town has followed a philosophy that growth pays for growth. And what that means is that if someone wants to pull a building permit within Castle Rock to either build a residence or to build a new non-residential buildings, such as a commercial building or apartments, they have to pay fees to the town that represent what they're going to impact on town services. So, for example, the new fire station on Crystal Valley Parkway has been paid with impact fees, fees that were paid by development in order to be allowed to be built in the community. The new park in the Meadows was paid with impact fees. We'll talk about the likelihood that we're going to be moving forward with constructing a new park. We're widening Plum Creek Parkway now between Gilbert and Eaton. The widening part of that project is being paid for with impact fees, where growth has paid for that. If growth slows down, we'll get less revenue. So we'll have to adjust some of those capital projects going forward as well. But we also will have less impact in regards to growth. And this is, considering it's a $250 million budget, and we spent a lot of time putting it together, this is kind of a drive-by review of the town finances. So what our big concern with the pandemic is obviously sales tax, that we're going to see a reduction in the sales tax, and we have to make adjustments accordingly. And in the next slide, you start to see some of the changes that we have already made. We've already furloughed over 250 employees in the Parks and Recreation department, which also includes the golf course. We've got a number of part-time facilities people that clean a number of parks facilities and other facilities that we have laid off. So we furloughed those individuals. We hope to bring them back, because that's the key part of any municipal organization, are the employees and their ability to do things. We've reduced and deferred expenses for training, equipment, computer replacement, fleet replacement, supplies. We're reallocating funds where in some cases we're requiring the payment sooner back to the general fund, which will be dramatically impacted by sales tax. We've come up with a deferral elimination of expenditures in the $5 to $7 million range for the general fund, which is roughly what we think a 20% loss in sales tax will be for that fund. The other two funds that receive sales tax are transportation fund. We've reduced expenditures there where we have cut some of our pavement maintenance program work this year. And then obviously in our community center fund, in our Parks and Recreation department, they're not only hit with the loss of sales tax, although they don't get as much sales tax as those two other funds, but they're also affected by the loss that we've had to close a number of their facilities that generate revenue, primarily the Miller Activity Center and the Recreation Center. So we've been looking at ways to reduce those expenditures as well. Going to the next slide, we just simply point out that we're going to have to continue to monitor this. We're watching very closely our revenue receipts. We're looking at building permit data, not just simply on a monthly basis, but even more periodically than that. And then we also know that we're going to be reopening services. That's what the public is paid for. That's what the public expects. So we're going to be doing that as well. All with the goal, obviously, that we want to continue to make sure that citizens enjoy those essential services and that we have the resources in order to meet payroll for all of those critical items. One of the keys to managing in an economic downturn is we want to minimize the reduction in service to the community, and we have that as one of our guides, and that's what we're doing. We're also looking for opportunities to assist small businesses. Before we were even making cuts, we were talking about how can we help small businesses that had that hard stop. And as the mayor just talked about, over $1 million of grant and loan money going to a number of our small businesses, because we know that that's just a key part of Castle Rock in our community identity. So, and we're very proud to have been able to do that and to get the success stories and the appreciation from those wonderful businesses. We have to balance our budget, and if you want to go to the next slide, this is just a reminder that there is some federal money out there. We've not really received any yet. You may have heard at the federal level there is a CARES Act that has provided money directly to the state, and then also money to municipalities over 500,000. Adams, Arapahoe, Denver, Jefferson, El Paso County got money directly. Those counties obviously Denver is a county and a city. Those counties are sharing funds directly with their municipalities. We haven't, as Douglas County has not received any funding, but we are in the process, we believe, of getting this rectified. The council sent a letter here a few weeks back asking for additional funding from the federal government through a new CARES Act. And then also we're asking our state legislators and the governor to share some of the money that has gone to the state. And we believe that latter is in the process of occurring. The state has to balance its budget. All local governments, including the town of Castle Rock, have to balance our budget as well. We not only balance our budget, we put money away every year for reserve funds. And again, it's just all part of that desire to fiscally manage the community. I'm going to be happy to respond to any questions. If you have questions later, I hope citizens will feel free to just send me an email. The email is available on the town's website, townmanager@crgov.com. And I am more than happy to respond to any particular questions or concerns that you have in regards to this issue or any other things that you're going to hear from our great staff. And speaking of great staff, I think what I get to do is turn it over to Jeff Brower, who is the director of our Parks and Recreation Department. I should say our award-winning Parks and Recreation Department. So I believe, Jeff, you're up next. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Great.
Shannon, if you could bring up the Parks and Recreation slides. Thanks, Dave, and thanks, Mayor Gray, for hosting this. And to the general public, welcome to Castle Rock Parks and Recreation. Like your family, Parks and Recreation has been impacted by this pandemic. Dave has previously indicated some of the numbers of staff that have been furloughed and some of the folks reassigned. We find ourselves in a very unfamiliar situation, and so we've transitioned recreation services from face-to-face to online services. We are trying to deal with the projected 10 to 20% loss in sales tax revenue, obviously. So some of the details of our transition, our recreation staff has been talented enough to provide over 30 fitness classes weekly to the community, and those are virtual classes. We've prepared athletic and aquatic skill building videos, and those are available on Instagram. Our licensed teachers have provided 30 educational videos to keep your kids involved and to keep them entertained. And rest assured that we as a staff are learning new skills and building a stronger team. We're working on a draft reopening plan for both the Recreation Center and the MAC, and we can't do that without you. Shannon, next slide, please. The good news is that the response to COVID has demonstrated what the Castle Rock community thinks of parks, recreation, and open space. While the rest of the state suffered kind of a decrease in use and visitation to the parks, Douglas County and specifically Castle Rock saw a 10 to 20% increase in all of our parks. So it's kept our park maintenance and operations staffs very busy. You can see here on some of our more used trails, including Philip S. Miller Park, Ridgeline, and Rock Park. We've seen an increase in use of almost 60% from last year to this year. We've also seen an increase in Menman Ridge, Gateway Mesa, and Plum Creek. So everybody is doing exactly what is expected of them. They're getting out, they're staying healthy, and they're using our parks, trails, and open space. Shannon, next slide, please. Many of you have asked for kind of a cheat sheet on what is open, what is closed. So we've produced this document, and we're going to make this available to you online. You can see that through the work of our town council and Tri-County Health, we were able to get some facilities open for you, including basketball courts, tennis courts, pickleball courts, and the skate park for household members. So we're really, really thrilled about that. As Dave has indicated, Red Hawk Ridge has stayed open, and we are following new protocols over there, and we do appreciate your support for those facilities. One of the things that we do want to remind you is that as the Parks and Recreation Department seeks to open more facilities, look at those keys to safer operation. Those are the keys for us to show the health organizations what we need to do in order to go ahead and get clearance to open these up to the general public. So reducing exposure, we're modifying our facility operations, we're working on enhanced cleaning and disinfection, we're modifying all of our staffing, and we're working specifically on community communication. So we will post this document online for your cheat sheet on what's available, and we will change that as the orders come available. Next slide, please, Shannon. In the meantime, both Rock Rec and CSU summer camps are scheduled to begin. We will actually open those up next Tuesday. These camps are considered a critical service under our license with the Colorado Department of Human Services. Our staff work diligently with Human Services and Tri-County Health and our local public health officials to go ahead and get this approved, to develop new protocols, to review our facilities. So the first camps will take place at the Miller Activity Complex. The complex will be open only. The building will only be open for those camps. It will be closed to the general public, but those camps will be accessing the building, and we really look forward to that. Your response to those camps has been wonderful, and we're going to offer this as a critical service to the community. So we're pleased about our partnership with Colorado State University. If you participate in those camps before, they are high quality and very engaging camps. Some of those that we're pleased to offer this year include Fun Life, Music and Movement, Multi-Sports, and Outdoor Adventure. Shannon, can you go to the next slide, please? So from a planning standpoint, we haven't slowed down as a result of COVID. So this is the council-approved master plan for Cobblestone Ranch, for the Cobblestone Ranch plan. This park is located, it's about 168 acres. It is located west of Highway 83, north of Castle Oaks Drive and adjacent to Cherry Creek. Community has been involved in this on developing a plan for a small neighborhood component of this park. We are intending to develop about 8 to 10 acres of this park, and looking forward to possibly construction in the fall. The park process, the public process, included design charrettes. It included community surveys. It included open houses. And this is the first park design that we've done with the community, where the community was actually able to monitor and interpret the changes in the design as a result of their public input. So we thought that that was a really neat tool that we were able to utilize there. So look forward to Cobblestone Ranch Park coming soon to you. Shannon, next slide, please. So we've also been asked to kind of identify some of those things that you can participate in right now that some folks wouldn't think about. And so we have some of those ideas for you to get out and enjoy here in Castle Rock, including birding, geocaching, pickleball. Enjoy the over 6,000 acres of open space here in Castle Rock. We've also got activities such as nature bingo. If you want to go ahead and check out Generation Wild, it shows you 100 things to do with kids under 12. And so we also have activities such as Animals Around the Rock. So please go ahead and participate in those and get outside. Also remember to download the Rock Rec app in the App Store or Google Play. That will guide you through all the offerings that we have available in the Parks and Recreation Department going forward, and that will keep you current also on everything that is available. I'm available for questions after this. That concludes my presentation, and I'd like to go ahead and at this point in time turn it over to Tara Vargas, who is our Interim Director of Development Services. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to, again, our one of our first town-wide virtual open houses. I have a couple updates on development activity town-wide. In Castle Rock, it has remained pretty steady over the past few months. We have had a moderate slowdown in permit activity between March and April, but we're still on track for our year-end projections. So we'll continue to monitor that. We are seeing our typical activity in all the areas around town, including in the Meadows and the Promenade Outlet Mall area. There's construction occurring in the Cobblestone Ranch and Terrain neighborhoods, as well as Founders Village in the Oaks. Downtown still has several construction projects underway, and Crystal Valley Ranch, as well as the new Montaigne Lanterns area. So all of that's been tracking typically per this time of year. For those that might not know, the Whole Foods in the Promenade area is open for online delivery orders only. So they've not been able to open yet for in-person shopping. But our team has continued on both the site construction and building construction sides to remain active, completing all the inspections that are required in those areas. We have modified a little bit for in-home inspections. So inspections that would take place in an occupied home, whether it's a basement finish or a new air conditioning unit or hot water installation. So we've created a remote inspection process. The homeowner and the inspection staff are able to communicate on a video call. The homeowner can show the inspector all the areas that they need to see and test and confirm that it's installed correctly. This has been working very well. We've conducted actually a couple hundred inspections that way so far since we started using it in March. Homeowners are appreciating the ability to close out those projects and not be delayed in our current situations. Also on the land use project side, we are continuing to have a steady workload of applications that our planning group and zoning group are processing. We have been holding some neighborhood meetings virtually in this similar format, as well as town council hearings, as well as planning commission and design review board. Those have all been able to hold public hearings in this virtual format. We have had a lot of public participation through that, which has been great. We always welcome public comments, and our events calendar online and our public notice calendar include all the information you need to join those meetings. Also, feel free to reach out to our staff and development services at any time. And so this concludes just my general updates. We're seeing work as typical right now, but we did see a slowdown in April, and we anticipate a slight slowdown in May as well. But I will be around for the rest of the evening, so if there's any development specific question, I'll be able to address it at that time. And so I didn't have slides like Jeff, but that's all right. So I'm going to hand it over now to Chief Colley, our police chief, and he can give you an update in our police world. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. I appreciate that. And I've been asked by several members of our community. Next slide, please, Shannon. How has the pandemic affected our calls for service and how we service the community? It was really pretty interesting. The first few weeks of the pandemic, we really saw a pretty significant slowdown in the number of calls for service as businesses were closed, schools were closed, the weather wasn't that great. So it was pretty slow. But the last few weeks, we really have seen an increase in the number of calls. Certainly the relaxing of some of the COVID restrictions out there and the better weather. And as Jeff Brower had mentioned, lots of folks are out on the trails and out and about, which is really great. So we have seen an increase in calls. The one thing I wanted to bring attention to, and something I think the community can really help us with, is that one of the areas we've seen an increase in has been car break-ins. So we've had about 40 cases of cars being broken into between April 1st and May 16th. Now, the interesting thing about this, and this is where the community can really help us out, is that of those break-ins, 93% of the cars were unlocked. So if we could just get the community to lock their cars, kind of the same way they do when they go out on the road. We know that more than 80% of the people who travel put their seatbelt on. So if we can get that number or higher folks to just lock their cars when they leave them, then we can really reduce car break-ins by, in this case, 93%, because we only really had 1 or 2 cars that were broken into that, where they actually broke the window out. So that would be very helpful to us to help us prevent crime by locking our doors. Next slide, please. So related to that, I wanted to talk about one of our programs called Rock Watch. It's really the very definition of community policing, where citizens, residents can assist us in solving crimes that occur in our neighborhoods. These days, many residents have utilized surveillance cameras like Ring doorbells or just cameras mounted to the front of their homes. And what they can do is they can sign up with us and let us know that they have those cameras. And we can have them, we have a list that we keep of that. So if we do have criminal activity in your area, we can reach out to you, and it's totally voluntary. So if we were to reach out to you and say, hey, we had this occur on your block, can we check your video? You're not obligated to share that with us. But many residents do. And from that, we've had great success in identifying suspects, vehicles, dates and times through the videos. So we've been able to prosecute individuals based on those videos and return stolen property to people that had their property stolen. As of today, we have about 700 residents within Castle Rock that are signed up on our program. So we certainly would like to increase that so that you can help us keep our community safe. And you can sign up by going to crgov.com/rockwatch. And that will walk you through how to sign up for the program, where you can give us a call and we can help you with that. Next slide, please. So related to that, just some crime prevention tips. Know your neighbors in your neighborhood. If you see anything suspicious, please don't hesitate to give us a call. We'll come and check it out just to make sure everything's okay. And then related to the vehicle break-ins, try not to leave valuables in your vehicle in sight. A lot of times what happens is that these are crimes of opportunity where, if they see a laptop or something of value in your car, then they'll target that. So if the best thing is to take the valuables out of your car or lock them in your trunk where they can't be seen. The other tip is to close your garage doors at night. Again, it's a crime of opportunity, and we have had occasions where we have a train coming, so I'm going to mute for about 30 seconds. Okay, I think I'm pretty safe now. I'm about 50 feet from the train, so it's a little loud. But anyway, so if you close your garage door at night, that'd be very helpful, because again, it's a crime of opportunity. Again, if you can't remember all these, then if you join us on our Castle Rock Police Facebook page, we have the 9 p.m. routine reminder that will help you with the crime prevention tips and help keep everybody safe. Next slide, please. So with all the folks out and about on our trails and bikeways, we have our bike officers out right now that are there to partner with you and they want to connect with the community. It's been a little bit more difficult this summer, this spring, because we usually by now have had events such as Splash Mob and Dirt Jumps and Donuts and those types of things, or programs to connect with the community. We haven't been able to do that at this point, but we are still out there. Our bike officers are out there. So please look out for them, stop and talk with them. Of course, staying socially distant, but they'd love to communicate with you and connect with you out on the trails, just to stay connected. Next slide, please. And talking about staying connected. So some things we have been doing is birthday parades that we would swing by kids' homes and with our lights and sirens, with police and fire, and just to wish them a happy birthday. It's just something to stay connected. We've been doing some storytelling with our officers, again, just to stay connected with the community. And then we also have a program where we are going by locations where seniors live, because many of them can't interact even with their families because of the pandemic. So we want to go by and make sure that we're saying hello and trying to stay connected and kind of brighten their day up a little bit. So we've done a couple already, and we have more on the way in the coming weeks just to stay connected with them. Next slide, please. And lastly, and the mayor mentioned this, and I wanted to mention it again. We really, really appreciate all the community support. Everything from burritos to pizzas to sandwiches to cookies to donuts to hand sanitizers to masks, you name it. I had pizza for dinner tonight that somebody dropped by. So it's pretty much almost every day we've had somebody stop by and help us out, to support us. The community is taking care of us so that we can help continue to keep our community safe. And we really, really appreciate that. So that is all I have for my presentation. And now I will hand it over to our fire chief, Norris Crew. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. And I like that train sound effect. That was a nice little addition there. So, howdy, Castle Rock. I am Norris Crew. I currently serve as your Fire and Rescue Department Chief. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please, Shannon. Some of the same challenges that the police department talked about is, what is our COVID-19 response? And so when this all started, there was a lot of questions about what's the right thing to do? How do we provide that service? How do we, from an EMS medical standpoint, provide the right level of service to our community? So we've been able to provide service across the board to everybody in the community, but with some changes. We modified our EMS protocols to be able to go out and make sure that we're taking care of patients appropriately. Part of that started with our 911 dispatchers asking specific questions about, do you have signs or symptoms of COVID? Once our crews arrived on scene, we were asking some of those same questions, trying to make sure that not only are we taking care of the patient, but that we're keeping our crews safe. We've also been using a significant amount of PPE, and you've heard that in the media about how much PPE is being used by healthcare professionals. But we took it a step further in again, trying to provide safety for our personnel as well as you, our customer. We actually modified one of our ambulances to be specific for COVID transports so that it is easier to decon that particular rig, decontaminate, so clean it afterwards, and provide that safe environment where we can transport patients and our crews can operate safely. The other thing that we've done is we've been working on a truly a local, a regional, a state, and even a national level in trying to find best practices and just really make sure that we're providing the level of service that you as our community expects. As Chief Colley mentioned, and certainly as the mayor has mentioned, we've been very blessed, if you will, and we want to thank everybody who's donated so much to our agency, from food to gift cards, PPE, masks, the whole 9 yards. This is why we live in Castle Rock. This is why I live in Castle Rock. And I'm very grateful for everything that you've provided to the members of our department as well as the town as a whole. Next slide, please. So one of the other questions that has typically come up is, what are we doing going forward? So as we work through this current challenge, growth is a big issue in town. And so we have a number of documents, as you can see on if you're online, you can see on our slide, that kind of drive the department and which way we're moving. So we have a number of documents there. Currently, the 2014 to 2019 master plan, the 2016 community risk assessment, and the 2018 standards of cover are all documents that are currently under revision this year. We had started on those. COVID's kind of slowed us down on them, but all of those documents will be updated this year. And then we also have a strategic plan. We have a strategic workforce plan talking about our staff and how we can move forward. And then just this week, we published our 2019 annual report, and that is available online. If you go to crgov.com/fire, you will find it under our strategic documents. And the 2019 report, I think, has a lot of information in it as far as what all of our divisions, to include our life safety division, training and education, logistics and emergency management, did over the course of the year, in addition to what our operational response was. Next slide, please. So going forward, one thing, there is some good news on the horizon. 4th of July, the fireworks show, as of today, is still a go. We do not intend to cancel that unless, as in years past, we run into significant weather or fire conditions. So it is scheduled for the 4th of July. It will be on the Santa Fe Quarry above Red Hawk Ridge Golf Course. Shoot time is about 9:30 p.m. as dusk goes. So sometimes it's a little earlier, a little later, depending on cloud cover, but roughly about 9:30. Part of the reason that we continue to shoot it from the Santa Fe Quarry over on the west side of town is that you can be in pretty much anywhere on the I-25 corridor and be able to see the fireworks show. So you can be in the Meadows, you can be in Metzler, areas of Plum Creek, downtown, and have a great view of it, which allows for great social distancing. And we figure that there's still going to be some challenges with that. We're going to provide more information as we get closer to the day. And it might not be quite like we've done in the past, where you've been able to go to Red Hawk Ridge and park in the parking lot and get some food at the golf course or congregate in those areas. But we feel like this is a significant event. We certainly want something to celebrate. The 4th of July is a great time to do that. And we are still planning on moving forward with the 4th of July show. So stay tuned for that. More info will be coming. And that concludes our presentations tonight. I'll turn it back over to Melissa.
Thank you, Chief Kroom. We now have some time for questions. We will take questions first from our online audience, followed by questions from our phone-in audience. Online audience, if you have a question, please use the raise your hand feature or submit a chat message to the host to ask your question now. We'll give you about 10 seconds. All right, next we'll take questions from our phone-in audience. Phone-in users, if you have a question, please press *6 to mute your microphone and begin speaking. If there are multiple speakers, I'll ask Shannon to order the speakers and call you to speak by the first 6 digits in your phone number.
Hi, this is Lisa Scott. If there aren't any other questions, I've got one.
All right, Lisa, go ahead.
Yes, Mayor Gray, I saw your letter to Governor Polis requesting that the businesses be allowed to reopen in Castle Rock, and I totally support that and agree that we need to move forward with our economic health. However, what is your plan to protect the physical health of our residents?
Lisa, thank you for calling in. I think we have a plan along with Tri-County. Douglas County sent in a plan last week to Tri-County. Tri-County approved that plan for social distancing and opening restaurants, and now that plan is on to the state. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to follow the guidelines that are given to us. And I think that what we're trying to do is make sure that we do our social distancing with the way we're supposed to, and hopefully our community will rally around and do what we need to do. So I think that hopefully we'll have a better idea in the next coming days how we're going to open exactly. That there's some consternation about that and trying to figure out how we're going to do it in a safe manner. I'm not sure, David, anything to add to that?
Yeah, Mayor, this is Dave, Town Manager. No, it's a very good question. We as a town organization have been fastidious. We've been very meticulous in following the public health orders in regards to our town services, and we've also been doing a lot of education with businesses. But now, as the rules are kind of changing in different jurisdictions, and we're some with variances and such, it's even more important to do that education. So we would be doing that as well. But as the mayor indicated, we've been very active through the state order process, which is that counties, not municipalities, counties can ask for variances. The variances have to be approved by the local hospitals as well. Then they go to the local health department, which in this case is our Tri-County Health Department, where Adams, Arapahoe, and Douglas County have a combined health department. That's all been approved, and now we've sent it off to the state, and we're waiting on the state in order to approve those variances. We do know that the state is going to be having some new orders in the coming days that will loosen the restrictions statewide. We still want our variance requests approved as well, but those requests still have restrictions, and we're following all of those restrictions as well. And it's those restrictions that the public health officials say still protect the public from additional spread of COVID.
And if I may add as well, we talked to John Douglas, who's in charge of Tri-County Health last few days, and he was really impressed with Douglas County's variance request. He said it was one of the best ones he's seen that he's seen, period. And it's just, I think that is a testament of how hard Douglas County commissioners have worked and how hard their staff has worked on trying to open up safely. Does that help, Lisa?
Yes, it does. And so we can expect to see something posted on the castlerock.gov website regarding 8-foot distancing, temperature checks, what are we doing in gyms, how are barbershops and salons supposed to operate, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, Ms. Scott, this is Dave Corliss. What we have done is provided links to those specific sites for either the state order or the Tri-County orders. It's always best to go to that original source, and we have those links. We'll continue to provide those links as soon as we get any new state orders or anything we need to change on our website.
And what are we doing with regard to enforcement? So, like, I went to Safeway today, and there was a sign requesting people wear masks, and I saw several people in the store without masks on. How are we enforcing these requests?
Well, I can speak to that, and then also the fire rescue, and then probably just as importantly, law enforcement can. But the long and the short of it is that our efforts have been education, and then what we do when we see on a complaint basis, when we hear of complaints, we then refer them to Tri-County, and it's Tri-County that is then authorized by the state to enforce that state order. So, and then we're also helping facilitate businesses that are also asking their patrons to do certain things, such as wear masks and do other things as well. That's the role of the town in regards to enforcement. It's that education component, facilitating with the businesses, and then referring items to Tri-County, and in some cases the state, to then use their licensing powers in regards to those specific establishments.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you. We now have a question from Michael. Michael, would you like to go ahead and answer your question, please? Or ask your question, please?
Yes, thank you. My name is Michael Angel. I live in the Meadows. I'll try to be brief, but I think the foundations for the health crisis are very dubious when you start looking at the science. Unfortunately, the foundations for the economic crisis are very real. We're looking at 23% national unemployment as of today. That was in the Wall Street Journal. 10% of mortgages are already in arrears. There are show homes being broken into. The appliances are being stolen locally. I'm sure Mr. Colley could speak better about that than I can. But we have businesses failing, and I don't mean just the small little restaurants. We have Hertz. Hertz is about to go bankrupt. Those people aren't being furloughed. They're being dismissed. That's a major problem, and we have got to reopen because it's creating a domino effect that we cannot stop. So I know your hands are tied to a point, but please do everything you can to reopen businesses as soon as possible, because we can't endure this forever. We just can't. I'm sorry.
Michael, thank you for the call. Didn't you and I talk earlier last week or a week before that?
Yes, sir, we did. We spoke on the telephone for about 15 minutes. I'm
No,
very
I
grateful for your time.
No, I appreciate it. I thought I recognized the name. So, no, I think you're right. And as we talked before, I've been working with the Douglas County commissioners for about 11 weeks now, and as well as staff and other mayors across the Front Range. And as much as our citizens are frustrated, we're all frustrated. And I think that I was expecting something sooner than now, and hoping for something sooner now, and the same way something safe as well. but I think that hopefully when we get to go ahead, we get to go ahead quickly, and hopefully we can rebound quickly as well. I'm not sure if Dave or Jack has anything to add to that.
Yeah, I just want to impress upon yourself a very, very good articulation. This is not lost on any of the people with the town. We read through over 200 applications asking for grant funds from businesses here in Castle Rock, and it is just an incredible tale of woe. I mean, you did a really nice job, Michael, as well, outlining the harm that has been inflicted on businesses. And we don't like it. You can imagine someone in my shoes doesn't like it because of the revenue that we depend on in order to make operations. We're advocating as strongly as we can within the system, within the set of laws that are on the books today, in order to get the orders changed so that the businesses can open. So very much appreciate your passion. Encourage you to communicate that, not only with us, keep that dialogue going, but also on to others as well in different government responsibilities, because they really need to understand that pain and the urgency of asking. And we're very frustrated. We don't have time this evening to talk about some of the contradictions that we see in both the orders and in some of the variance work, but we're trying to fix the problem and not so much the blame right now. We'll get a chance to fix blame later. We're trying to fix the problem, which is getting the businesses open.
One of the provisions of the CARES Act, and I happen to know this because I'm a tax professional, Social Security payments have been suspended. Businesses have the options of not paying that right now. And I know the elderly are concerned about getting sick, and I fully understand that. My parents are in their 80s. But I also know they rely on Social Security. And when we have every business in America taking a break from paying their share of Social Security, I got to wonder, where does the trade-off begin? But I appreciate all the things you guys are doing. I have great faith in all of you, and please keep up the good work.
Michael, thank you for calling in. I appreciate it. And I think you're right. I mean, whether it's a state or town, state, or federal level, there's a lot of questions that are going to have to be raised for our financial community, our seniors, as well as our college students, and so on and so forth, are trying to figure that out the next few months.
Thank you, sir.
You take care, man.
Thank you for your question, Michael. We have a few more minutes for some additional questions. We'll take questions from our online users. You can use the raise your hand feature, or from our phone callers you can hit *6 to unmute your phone.
Hi, my name is Chris Treeweller. I'm wondering if Castle Rock is considering implementing a face mask policy. I would think that there would be part of the consideration of opening businesses back up safely and to ensure that people stay safe around town. Has that been considered?
David, do you have more information on that?
The guidance that we have received from the public health professionals is that they think it's appropriate to encourage it. I think you have a real law enforcement challenge if you're going to require it everywhere. So what we've been trying to do is work with the businesses that depend upon that requirement, and there are a number of businesses that require face masks in order to be a patron. We've been trying to work with them about how we can educate. In some cases, we've had law enforcement presence at some establishments, and Chief Cawley can get into this as well, to provide that level of encouragement. But we also understand that some people don't view that as an appropriate government mandate, that they want to have that personal choice, and so it's really kind of up to the business about whether or not they're going to admit those individuals or not. So we haven't gone down the path of a law in this area. Instead, we've been focused on education and then business support. So that's been our direction on that, and that's where we stand so far on that issue. Mayor or Chief Cawley can embellish from there.
Thanks, David. Yeah, I mean, on I've been on several phone calls with Tri-County and Douglas County and mayors, and that this subject comes up a lot on whether we should do masks or not, or require them. And Tri-County, about 3 weeks ago, I believe, decided not to require them countywide or state or that kind of thing. And we kind of followed that guidance, as well as I think that we're trying to do a lot of personal responsibility on that. Is if you really want to wear a mask, you really should. And if you don't want one, then you know, you probably stay out of places that you're required to wear one. And at the same time, you know, I just want a lot of personal responsibility on that. You know, I know a lot of people who do wear a mask, and a lot of people who don't, and I'm trying to respect that. David?
My other quick comment would be is that town employees that are in situations that require that we have the masks, we've bought additional masks. I was in a meeting on site today. We had all of the town staff wearing masks because that's what was required for that on-site visitation. But there's no town ordinance or mandate in this area.
Thank you. Do we have any additional questions from our audience? So we'll now answer a few questions that were submitted online. Some of the questions we received have been addressed as part of the presentation tonight, or earlier questions. Here's a question that has not yet been answered. This online question was submitted by a Castlewood Ranch resident. The question is, why do roads in the meadows get repaired and the roads in my part of town don't? Dan, would you like to address this question? Dan Saylor is the town's Public Works Director. Dan?
Sure, thanks, Melissa, and good evening, Castle Rock. I'll be brief with this answer. I know we're running up against the close of the hour, but for purposes of maintaining local streets, we have divided the town into 5 regions. Those are shown here on the map that you see in front of you. And so each year we are in one of these regions, and what that does is it improves efficiencies for those limited tax dollars that Town Manager Corliss had mentioned and the mayor had mentioned earlier. Last year we were in the purple area of the meadows. This year we're in the green area of the central. So that covers the meadows portion. That's why folks have seen a lot of maintenance activity in the meadows. And then next year we'll be in the southern area shown in blue. And then the remaining 2 years will be in the yellow and the orange areas. So every 5 years, you should expect to see some maintenance within the residential areas that you live in. So that's a real brief overview of our approach to maintaining the streets on local streets in the town. And I'll turn it back over to Melissa for further questions.
Thank you, Dan. We have time for one last question. This question also comes from Castlewood Ranch. What is Castle Rock doing to open our economy since the state seems to drive so many businesses out of business? Mayor or Dave, would you like to respond to this question?
I can start, and then Dave can follow up. You know, to your question, I mean, what we're trying to do is when we get the opportunity to open, we're going to open as quickly as we can and as safe as we can. Besides that, we have sent off several letters to the county, to the Tri-County and the state, trying to convince them that we need to open up. We've also done that on Tuesday night. The council got together a letter with staff's help, and it was mailed off yesterday. And just to kind of voice our displeasure and that we think we can do a good job opening, and we're hoping to get some positive feedback on that. And we're also hoping that even if we don't get positive feedback, that we can open up soon and do it in a manner that is respectful and safe. David?
Mayor, the only thing I would quickly add, and again, the council, all of the council unanimously have been adamant about seeking that from the state. We're doing some things even in anticipation of being able to open. One of the best examples I can think of is that we believe we're going to be getting some new rules that are going to allow for some sit-down dining restaurant opportunities. We're in the process now of making sure that we can we've waived the fees. We've got an expedited process to look and see if we can't expand some of those restaurants out into public patio areas, maybe in some cases out into public streets. Obviously depends upon where the restaurant wants it. So we're looking at being able to do that, even though we don't know what the rules are going to be. We're trying to anticipate where we think they're going to be, allowing some sit-down opportunities, probably with the right kind of distancing, so that we can allow people to open their businesses. So we're trying to do everything we can, obviously with all this legal framework of the state order is the law, and then we've got to follow that, and then obviously try and seek variances through the state order variance process.
Thank you, Dave. That's a good point. We don't have a restaurant row as some places have restaurant rows, and so we don't have an opportunity to close down streets. But I think that we're going to do it case by case basis, and whether it's downtown Castle Rock or in the Promenade or anything like that, I think that what we're trying to do is be creative and move swiftly on that. Melissa?
Thank you, Mayor and Dave. That's all the time we have for questions this evening. Any questions that were submitted online and not answered this evening will be answered and published online within a week at sierragov.com/virtual open house. Now we'll hear from Mayor Gray for a few closing remarks.
Thank you, Melissa. I just want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. It's really special that everyone wants to be a part of it. And the town, I got to tell you, whether it's a pandemic or not, but the town staff is top notch, and they help us, the council and myself, look good and do a good job. And what happens with them is they give us a lot of good information. We have a lot of good questions, and it's all followed up in a great way. I want you to feel like if you need to reach out, please reach out. And you can find my contact information at crgov.com/mayor. And you can leave a message on my voicemail and I'll call you back. It doesn't go directly to my phone, it goes to a voicemail box, or you can go ahead and email me and I'll email you back. If those emails aren't directly towards me, I'll make sure that they get to the right people, and we'll get it taken care of. My hope is that more than ever, that we still come together as a town, and we act compassionately and rationally and lovingly towards each other. In our community, and most of all, I just want you guys to be safe and have a great night. Thank you.